Salamun alaikum, dear Muslim believers. God condemns sexual misconduct and considers it a gross offense, while accusation of someone with sexual misconduct or spreading rumors are very serious matter and are not looked upon lightly by God. In chapter number 4, verse number 15, God says, "Those who commit adultery among your women, you must have 4 witnesses, then you shall keep such women in their home until they die or until God creates an exit for them." In chapter number 4, verse number 16, God says, "The couple who commit adultery shall be punished. If they repent and reform, you shall leave them alone. God most merciful." In chapter number 17, verse number 32, God says, "You shall not commit adultery. It is a gross sin and an evil behavior." In chapter number 24, verse number 2, God says, "The adulteress and the adulterer, you shall whip each of them 100 lashes. Do not be swayed by pity from carrying out God's law, if you truly believe in God and the last day, and let a group of believers witness their penalty." In chapter number 24, verse number 3, God says, "The adulterer will end up marrying an adulteress or an idol worshipper, and the adulteress will end up marrying an adulterer or an idol worshipper. This is prohibited for the believers." In chapter number 24, verse number 4, God says, "Those who accuse married women of adultery, then fail to produce 4 witnesses, you shall whip them 80 lashes and do not accept any testimony from them. They are wicked." In chapter number 24, verse number 11, God says, "A gang among you produced a big lie. Do not think that it was bad for you. Instead, it was good for you. Meanwhile, each one of them has earned his share of the guilt, as for the one who initiated the whole incident. He has incurred a terrible retribution." In chapter number 24, verse number 12, God says, "When you heard it, the believing men and the believing women should have had better thought about themselves and should have said, 'This is obviously a big lie.'" In chapter number 24, verse number 15, God says, "You fabricated it with your own tongues, and the rest of you repeated it with your mouths without proof. You thought it was simple when it was, according to God, gross." In chapter number 24, verse number 16, "When you heard it, you should have said, 'We will not repeat this. Glory be to you. This is a gross falsehood.'" In chapter number 25, Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 68, God says, "They never implode beside God, any other God, nor do they kill anyone. For God has made life sacred, except in the course of justice, nor do they commit adultery. Those who commit these offenses will have to pay." In chapter number 25, verse number 69, "Multiplied for him is the punishment on the day of resurrection, and he will abide therein humiliated." In chapter number 60, verse number 12, "O you prophet, when the believing woman to seek asylum with you pledge to you that they will not set up any idols beside God, nor steal, nor commit adultery, nor kill their children, nor fabricate any falsehood, nor disobey your righteous order, you shall accept their pledge and pray to God to forgive them. God is forgiver, most merciful." Since adultery is a gross sin and evil behavior, we must protect ourselves from it, and and must refrain from accusing anyone of sexual misconduct or spreading rumors about anyone of it without having a proof. Otherwise, all our righteous work will be in vain and we will be losers in the hereafter. We should also come forward to prevent the society from committing such crime when we have the opportunity to do so. However, it is a surprise to the believers. That the stoning to death as punishment for committing adultery, as enforced in many so-called Muslim countries, is not Islamic. Rather, it is the direct violation of God's law. And as well, it is the direct violation of God's law, as well as cold-blooded murder. as the punishment of adultery clearly mentioned in the glorious Quran. Inshallah, we'll see you next time. Salamun alaikum.